When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
Enid Styles is a veterinarian at Sherwood Park Animal Hospital in Beaconsfield. Enid, thanks for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.
So, I got to say this, Enid, from the start, from a month ago when this pandemic hit us and the measures were put into effect, we've been handling questions with doctors, taking listener questions as well. And we get, every day there's just a little subsection of people that are really concerned about their pets. And I get it, family member, and I just lost my family member just over a month ago, so I get that connection. Obviously, we can't handle those in those segments because we're dealing with some other matters in those segments. But I would imagine that your phone has been ringing off the hook by people who are concerned. So can I ask you to start this off? What are the questions you get, and how do you respond to all your concerned pet owners?
Thanks, yeah, and I'm really sorry to hear about the passing of your
Thank you.
Listen, the biggest thing that initially it was like we were seeing the same thing we were seeing in grocery stores. Everybody was calling and just wanting to order a ton of their dog food or cat food and medications because they just didn't know if we were going to be staying open. So I would say that was probably the first few weeks what we were dealing with the most. Since then, it's just been, can you see my pet? So if they were worried and they had a condition or something's come up or their dog got bitten by another dog or they have an eye infection or something that really needs to be seen, people are just worried we're not open. But the great news is we're an essential service. So we are able to see emergency cases.
And are you busy? It's interesting because the hospitals have told us that when it comes to the non-COVID stuff, they're actually less busy because people aren't out. People aren't getting into accidents, right? So because people are going on less dog walks and that kind of thing, are you less busy or are you just as busy?
I would say we're almost just as busy with respect to things that are urgent. But because we're unable to see the sort of annual exams and the regular things that keep most practices quite busy in general, especially in the season, we're less busy. So many vet clinics have reduced the hours a little bit because, of course, seeing only emergencies doesn't keep us able to be open necessarily as many hours as usual. But we are perhaps even seeing, in some cases, more emergencies or more cases that seem urgent because what's happening, we find anyway, is that people are at home now watching their pets more and more and more.
Oh,
their
interesting.
Pets are more anxious, some of them, because they're like, wait a second, why are they home? My schedule's off. They're getting walked more. We've had some cases of dogs who were quite old who actually, were over-exercised and had issues as a result. So their arthritis was acting up. They were very tired. They didn't know what was going on. So we have seen some of the opposite of actually, in some cases, things that we might not have seen had people not been home.
That is so interesting. It never occurred to me that would happen, but it makes total sense now. If you've got an elderly dog that never gets, long walks and the owner's like, yeah, well, that's all he can do right now. I'm going for a walk. So interesting there.
The other thing we were seeing is there were some people that were in quarantine when they came back from trips and they were asking other people to walk their dogs, and those dogs were not used to being walked by that person. Maybe that person that was walking them didn't know how to walk properly and safely, and we had a few situations where dogs ran away. We've had situations where dogs got off leash and attacked other dogs or cats. So definitely a message out there that if you have somebody, whether it's in your own family, like a teenager who doesn't usually walk your dog, or whether it's a neighbor, that we really need to take some precautions. They need to know what they're doing.
Oh my God! So, Enid, has been a running gag on my Twitter account because I follow the city of Westmount on my Twitter,
Yes.
and they've now had 2 dogs that they found. Like, public security has found 2 dogs, and they posted to Twitter, "Is this your dog? Please call us." And obviously, I joke that I'll take the dog if nobody calls. and now it makes total sense. Why all of a sudden are we seeing these posts? So if you've got someone walking the dog that's not used to the dog, and then they get away. Wow, that's another flip side there. I got to ask you this though, because I'm sure you're looking into the research as well, and you're hearing the stories about the tiger in the zoo that got COVID. So what can you tell us? What do you know about the COVID human to pet transmission?
So I think the really very, very important message that if we say anything today, it's important to know that people get COVID from other people. As far as them being able to get it directly from their pet or another animal is extremely rare, if not impossible. So there aren't very many studies about this right now that tell us for sure. But we know that if that were the case, that animals could give us back COVID, we would be in far greater trouble.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know.
So what we do know is that cats especially, certainly ferrets, and dogs to a lesser extent, may potentially get COVID from us.
Uh-huh.
So if we have COVID, we may transmit it to the cats, dogs, ferrets, and possibly other species, like as we saw the tiger in that case in the zoo. However, that risk is also still very low. When you look at how many people have had COVID, we're not seeing people calling in saying, my cat has respiratory disease, and looks like it has COVID. We're just not seeing that. So we know that the likelihood is very low anyway, but not impossible. What we do know is that it's still possible that animals might be able to act as something that transmits. So just like when you touch something, that the COVID on your hands, you touch something and then you pass it to somebody else, the fur may act like that as well.
Uh-huh.
However, fur really is probably very much like fabric, and it doesn't probably last very long. But we don't have studies to say how long.
All right. One last topic for you, and that has to do with something we heard from the Premier earlier this week during one of the daily press briefings. Of course, the province and the health minister and the director of public health, they're all looking at contingency plans, right? And what do we do in this scenario, scenario? They seem to say that, on equipment, number of ventilators, we have enough ventilators in the province, right? They're confident about that. They're confident on the beds. One thing they're not as confident on is at the end of the day, if they need to use all the ventilators, having people to run them. And the Premier said that, we may call on veterinarians to join us in our hospitals and run ventilators and do other tasks like that. When you heard that, what are the thoughts that go through your mind?
Well, I mean, I think that we all want to help, and veterinarians are very much included in that as far as helping our community, helping our global crisis that we have presently. So we do know that if they would call upon us, I'm sure and know from my colleagues that we would go running if they asked. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing here is that we're not trained to use this equipment. There are very few of us that do use ventilators, so that's really a very specialized thing for anesthesiologists and veterinary anesthetists, technicians. So there's not very many of us who know how to use a proper that kind of equipment anyway, so we would need to be trained heavily. Yes. So I don't think, in fact, that's probably going to happen very much, but they've already been speaking with the Order of Veterinarians of Quebec to open those doors as possible training there for veterinarians, and we will help in any capacity that we can. We, hands down, are ready to do so. But we also want to be able to stay able to look after the animals as well, and that's really important.
Enid, thank you so much for coming on the program. It's always a pleasure talking
welcome.
to you. Enid Styles is veterinarian at Sherwood Park Animal Hospital in Beaconsfield.